Hello and welcome back to the Cash Flow Experience, episode 6. This episode is just me, Destiny, one of your co-hosts. I want to talk about the parts of my story that shaped who I am as a woman, a mother, a leader, and honestly, a warrior. I'm going to show you the parts of my story that I don't share often. And here we are and how we're going to break being the warrior woman. What people see now is the business, the success, the freedom, the 8-figure organization. But what they don't see is where it actually started for me. I became the woman that I needed because independence was required of me early on. That requirement shaped everything for me. From a young age, I learned how to stand on my own 2 feet. Not in a dramatic way and definitely not in a practical way. I learned how to adapt and I learned how to figure things out and I learned how to keep moving even when things felt uncertain, unshakable, and uncomfortable. That became the normal for me. I grew up in Oklahoma and my dad's side were first-generation farmers. My mom came from a large family and both of my family's sides were very poor. They had to build and work so hard and stay in survival mode. Looking back, there was a lot of scarcity. Hard work, survival, make do with what you have. That mindset gets passed down to each generation moving forward, and it creates a survival mentality. You work, you push, you don't expect much more than just getting by, and you don't ask for more. You just get what you get and you don't throw a fit. That environment made me work, let me tell you, and it put me in hustle culture. It didn't make me weak, it made me survive. It made me know that there was no other option but to work. But I wanted to flip the script because I knew there would be a better way if I became the one to create the abundance mindset in my family. Now, I'm not saying that that mindset was all bad or anything like that. That survival mentality really pushed me and made me resourceful in order to become better for my daughter. And I became a mom at 16. So when that happens, responsibility shows up fast. You gotta figure it out super fast. And you don't just ease into adulthood. You are thrown in it. And I was young. I was figuring it out. But I had to grow up because I had another human being to care for now. People my age, I'm 30 years old now, don't even figure out what it is that they want to do in their calling until later on in their life. Now, I do believe God had a bigger calling on my life. He wanted me to figure it out super young. But I didn't know the trials and tribulations that I would have to go through, let me tell ya. Thankfully, these seasons that I went through did not harden me. It sharpened me to be better, to do better, to know better, to do all of the things. I was raised by a single mom who worked hard, but, like most people, she was going through her own thing. She was a young mom. She was navigating her own life while doing the best that she could. My parents did the best that they possibly could with the knowledge that they had, and they were also stuck in survival mode, and they never truly actually broke that. Even to this day, they have not broke that because they have still adapted some of the scarcity tactics that were taught to them in their childhood. But that's okay. So moving forward, that's part of my story. That's part of their story. But because of that mentality, I had to learn independence and become who I needed to be, shift my identity, and not adapt that same mindset, which it took a very long time for me to learn. So since I was raised by a single mom and I was also the only child for 10 years of my life, I adapted independence, of course, because I had that first child syndrome, and then I had little brothers starting at the age of 10 years old. So I became a leader very quickly because I was caring for other human beings while my mom was at work and all of that as well. Now, she was navigating things in her own life the best that she possibly could and the survival instincts that she had, but there were some things that I don't agree with and I still don't agree with to this day, but that's completely okay and I'm not going to get into that here. But I want to fast forward into me having my daughter at 16 years old. When I had my daughter, I started realizing different things and realizing things that I wanted for my life and all of that. And just realizing that by being where I'm at is not going to get me to where I want to be. So I moved in with my best friend and her family, and thankfully they took me in. At first they were kind of like, what is happening? You know, whatever. But I had that village. My best friend and her family created a village for me that I didn't have prior. And I did have the support and the help. And I don't want it to seem like I just raised my daughter without a village. I had that village, and thankfully that I did. But because of my best friends and her family for taking me into their home, at 16, 17 years old, there were seasons that were unexplainable to me. And this is where I really started growing my faith with God, and God became the anchor before I even knew it. He led me to this family to guide me in the direction that I needed, and this was the foundation to the core path that I am building now. So I found God in responsibility, not the comfort. I was deep in the trenches of my own survival mentality, survival life, and God led me to my best friend and her family, who led me to God specifically, and I got baptized, and I feel like I was truly reborn during that time, because looking back, I really didn't remember much of my life until I was baptized. It was like there was an awakening in me. Now, this is not what this episode is about, and I won't get into all of that, but there was an awakening in me, and that's when I truly started being led by God through my entire life from that point forward. And that faith grounded me more than I realized at the time. Now looking back, I can see where God's work was in my life 110%. There is no explainable way that God has not helped me to get through the seasons that I have, and has protected me through seasons as well, because he literally carried me through this entire life. I am here 30 years old. Thank you, Jesus, for giving me this life and for being able to be the one in my lineage that breaks the generational curses.
In my 20s, it was always me and my daughter, learning as I went, figuring things out without a blueprint, building stability where there wasn't much before. I had to figure that out all on my own, and I've had to learn through every single uphill battle. I didn't have the luxury of waiting for the perfect time. I learned how to move forward even when I wasn't sure. Every season asked more of me, and I always thought that that was my brick wall. I was like, this is it. This is what's going to collapse me. Never did I actually collapse, and every version of me answered. I wasn't chasing success. I was building a life that felt steady, a life that felt safe. As from the outside world, it looked like I was just trying to build material wealth, which was not even the case at all. My mission has always been to be safe, to be free, to be stable, and to be able to pass down to my daughter what I never was passed down. Becoming that woman has not been easy. It has been nonstop uphill battles, going through betrayal, going through seasons where I had to isolate myself in order to build myself, because I had to cut out the noise that was around me. And it was a decision I kept making and keep making every single day, is to just keep going, because life will be different, and it looks so different now. And I am so incredibly grateful for having the tenacious ability and the mindset to just keep going and being the one that is willing to go first in my lineage.
When I look back now, I can see it very clearly. So I said that I was the one that broke all the generational curses in my lineage and for generations to come. I had to be that warrior my entire life, Not the loud, not the aggressive, not the performative one that you think and that you're visualizing, but the steady, the resilient, the willingness to keep going. That was the warrior in me. No matter what happened, I knew the calling that God had for me, and I knew the purpose he had, and it was to break the lineage curses, the generational curses, to be able to do more, do better, know more, and use the tools that are provided to me. So it was about, I would say I was like 25 years old when I started really realizing the calling on my life. The reason why I became an entrepreneur, because I have been an entrepreneur for 10 years now, but this is not where I was truly built. I was built in the times that I had to survive. And yes, I had to survive in my early 20s, build the business, all of that. But it was more in a sense of, I'm trying to figure out what it is that I want to do type of sense. I was never truly lost. From the time that I got baptized, I would never say that I was lost. I've always known who I am, my mission, and the care for my daughter, and that's never, ever, ever changed. That's always been the same. I may have not known the path, I may have not known the vehicle to take, but at 25 years old, I started really realizing it. Now I had already been in entrepreneurship for 5 years. I was a real estate agent because I became a real estate agent at 21 years old. Other side businesses, MLMs, network marketing, you name it, been in sales for 10 years. I'm 30 years old now. So you can do all the math there, of course. But it took me 25 years to realize the path that I was taking was no longer the path that I wanted to take. And I knew the calling on my life, and it was to become a millionaire by the time I was 30 years old. And I did that at 28 years old. Incredible, right? Survival mode, team mom, roadblock after roadblock after roadblock, became the woman God asked me to be. Because I started listening and I started crafting what it is that I wanted. And I started learning that through the sales engines that I created for myself, building an 8-figure organization by the time I was 29 years old. You know, that's where the warrior in me was built, is through all of those seasons. Now I'm fast forwarding at 30 years old, trying to find my balance, get out of hustle culture, step more into my feminine, and really figure it out from an abundance mindset opposed to a lack and scarcity and survival mindset. So that's what pretty much this whole entire channel is about, right? We are here to teach you how to step into an abundance and thriving mode opposed to building from a survival hustle culture mode, right? And I know there are women listening who grew up the same exact way I did, maybe not the same story, but similar things like their survival mentality, women who learned strength before safety, women who lived in survival mode for so long that peace feels unfamiliar. When you grow up like that, you don't dream about extravagance. You just dream about getting by day to day. You dream about normal. You dream about stability, consistency, a life that doesn't feel chaotic. Wanting that does not make you weak. It makes you normal. Who doesn't want that, right? Wanting that makes you know that there's a calling on your life, but the only reason you feel like you're still there is because you haven't listened to that calling. You've been the warrior. Now it's time to put that warrior to work, because the warrior can't work if it's not at war. Everything that I have built since, my life, my business, the impact that I make on my family, every decision moving forward comes from me knowing my calling, the calling that I have on my generations to come, the impact, the life that I can see clearly, but I have to create. I've had to be that strong one, and that's okay. I actually feel really good about it. For a while, I was like, why me? Why me? Why do I have to be the one? Because there was no other option. There was no other person willing to go first. I was willing.
And here's what I want to land on. This is just the beginning of our life. My life is stable now. I'm so grateful. It's not perfect, but it's steady. And I built the life I used to dream about and pray about. quietly as a young mom, through my 20s, as a 30-year-old now, being able to build from abundance. I'm living a full life with my fiance, our blended family, and a home that feels peaceful. I'm not surviving anymore. I am creating. We're dreaming up new companies, side companies, family companies, legacy level ideas with my family. And the reason that matters is because once stability is in place, creativity opens up. When you're no longer just trying to get through the day, you finally get to ask, what do I want to build next? The possibilities really are endless. And that's what I'm here to teach other women. Not just how to make more money, but how to build a life that feels steady, grounded, and enough to expand. This isn't the end of my story. It's just the beginning. And I have more women to help. Will you be one of them?
So, if you've lived through survival mode most of your life, this part is for you. And you're probably looking for a woman like me to help and coach you and guide you through. You're in the right place. I'm not talking to the people who want to stay comfortable. I'm talking to you, the generational curse breaker, the one that is willing to go first. It doesn't matter where you're starting. It matters that you're willing to take responsibility for where you're headed and where you're going. That's it. That's all it takes. Blessings.